Oh my gosh, it's almost as if we are totally and utterly ready to get started on a Hacker Hangouts on Saturday morning. My gosh, is everything. It's almost as if we know what we're doing because look at that. We have like multiple camera angles, which we need because I want to be able to show off the whole concept. We have the hack button. I mean, just in case anyone wanted to know, we have a hack the planet button. I don't think like any of the scenes are set up, so it's going to be a little bumbly at first, but it doesn't matter because we're here to hang out. In the whole premise of this entire like idea for this stream, I was looking at. I'm going to flip this over. It's going to look like all black. I don't even know. Yeah, it's not even showing up. There we go. Hold on. 2 seconds. That's all I need. I assure you. I'll kind of add someone in here, and then no one's going to be in order. Hold on. We got this.
Yeah, there's the Gulo. Gulo's back.
I'm looking at the smallest of images right here. We have the whole crew. First, let's acknowledge we have everyone, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I miss you all so dearly. But this started from a David Bombal video, and he does YouTube videos. He has like hacker content, and there's a lot of different, like you have a lot of Live Overflow, amazing hacker, very technical, very, I want to say dry, but very technical. Doesn't like, no FUD, no excitement, no like, this is the hack button, and every time we hit it, we hack the planet. Like none of that. We have like John Hammond goes through like CTF challenges, and David Bombal plays the YouTube game. And I don't fault him for this. Like it's not an accusation, but like his shorts, he'll put on the hoodie, he'll go put on like the Darth Vader voice and be like, "Let me tell you how to hack everything." And I bumbled the wrong one of his videos, which was with the flipperzero, and he's doing tons and tons of these flipperzero hacks right now, which are, you know, you push the button and it hacks the thing. And it's, in some ways, I watched it and it made me think of like 4 different things. First was he pushed a button and there's this vulnerability. Maybe vulnerability. We'll touch on that one in a minute. But you push a button on the flipper, and then it starts spamming your iPhone almost to the point where it's not even usable, and it does result in a crash. So I want to talk about that for one. But the thing which spurned this entire stream was ultimately the hack button. Like we have gotten to the point now, we have a hack button, and that's kind of how we referred to it as, is you push this button and then you hack 3 phones. And again, not even a slight towards him. It's a video that has gotten like probably 1 billion views at this point. Maybe not that much, but we'll just assume it's that much. And it hits me, it's just like, you push the button, you hack the phone, and in some ways I had 2 competing feelings. I had this is really cool. I'm thinking about holidays and the hacker hooliganism that I can now kick off everyone in my entire family off their phones. And that will be entertaining. I'll have that as a holiday gift for them. And then the other side of things is me going like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Like, why would you publish this in such a way that someone can go buy one of these devices, push a button, and then make the phone effectively neutered because the only fix for it is just turn off Bluetooth. So I'm going to get it set up, but as a question for you guys, what is it? You push a button, you hack. What is your feelings on this? And as I jump in, I'll jump into the herd as well.
So my first reaction to this, I was, we were talking about the topic for this stream, and Adam in chat is saying I wouldn't consider that as a hack. It's more of a spam. And this is where we get into talking about the modern script-kiddy. And the first time I said that, I was like, this is like the modern script-kiddy, right? Because it is the easy hack button, but you don't really know what is going on in the background, or you don't need to know what's going on in the background, right? We talked just before stream, we were talking about how there are certain things like street lights that have the sensors for emergency vehicles, right? And I was like, I wonder if they're going to end up coming out with an app for that, because that would be a nightmare, right? But I think it was Gator said, "Oh, you could use a hack RF to do that, but you would need actual skill to do it." So if it gets to the point where you can just press this auto hack button, we're entering the realm of what it meant, like what we thought being a script-kiddy would be when we were 12, right? Being able to go out into the world and make computers our, playthings, basically. Bend them to our will. And at first I was really negative about this, but as I've been sitting on it, I'm sitting here going like, no, this is about right. Like this is about what I should expect, having been in this industry long enough. And B, like, I guess I'll call this a 12-year-old gallery's dream come true of the auto hack button existing in real life.
Here, I got.
What do you guys think?
Is it actually an auto hack button, or did Silk fall out of his chair?
Oh. No, I'm like, again, you guys assume that I am like ready for these streams each and every time, and this time, like, I had a way more complicated setup. I didn't even get like the different headphones in, which I'm good with, but like you assume I'm set up, which I kind of am. I have like 3 cameras set up, which is just so fancy. This one I don't even know where
table
it's
form.
This
is Silk's table form.
And the funniest part is now there's like I need to drag forward. So here's the thing: is you have the flipper. You do require. Oh gosh, the color's so bad. Oh, I didn't fix it at all. Okay, I'm not gonna be able to fix it on stream. It's so orange. That being said, let me zoom in so you can kind of see it. Here's the flipper. Let me try it again. So here's the flipper. It's set up. You do need custom firmware. You need the extreme firmware. You need the beta firmware. And that's what enables you to do the spam. Now, your phone, and yes, I have an image of me and Melissa, and I wasn't able to flip it off. I don't even know how to change. I am a hackless techno weenie, and I could not figure out how to switch my background that fast on stream. But if the phone is sitting there and you launch the attack, it will just start, and the phone almost becomes unusable because every time I try and unlock it, it's just like, okay, unlock. I want to unlock my phone, and now it's just locked up.
I feel like your stream is crashing.
Oh gosh, holy cow! And look, watch this. So what's happening is my iPad. So the iPad is in airplane mode.
Yeah.
I crashed the iPad. Hold on. I crashed the iPad in which the stream is all going through.
Lovely.
And now, this is an example of like the unexpected is going beyond. I can't even flip. That is hilarious. So I don't even know. That is really funny. Is the entire stream went down?
No, it's still going.
Oh gosh, that's hilarious. Yeah, so my video is completely offline. I have no idea why. But that is like I'm now lost on words. But that is how it works. I'll work on getting my video set up with that. This is how it works. It makes your phone completely unusable just by hitting it. And what ended up happening is my iPad is in Bluetooth mode right now. I'm gonna just put it on Gator's face, so he can Gulo's. We'll just put it on Gulo's face. There we go. Just so you guys can be entertained.
So you know, the flipperzero has now successfully made Silk disappear, and on occasion makes Gulo disappear at the press of a button, which is unfortunate. I don't want Gulo to disappear.
What's so weird about this, and I'll fix my camera in a minute, is this is my iPad's in Bluetooth mode. I mean, is in airplane mode. But Apple now enables Bluetooth so it can use AirPods. The only fix for this vulnerability is to turn Bluetooth off.
And if you're going to do that, you also
nuts.
have to watch as well. That could also be a problem, right? Because they're constantly trying to make sure that they're communicating with each other for your health purposes or whatever else. So Bluetooth has become ubiquitous enough. I mean, it's all around us, right? So yeah, having these things to be able to kick off, whether it's whatever version of the flipper. This is also was being done at DEF CON, not necessarily with the flipper. Again, you can do this with the laptop as well. It's just that the package is a hell of a lot easier to carry in your pocket versus going through and carrying a laptop around with you.
And if anyone is wondering, I have to completely unplug the camera and plug it back in, and maybe it will work.
Maybe.
That is hilarious.
Gulo, what are your thoughts?
I think that, I look fancy.
Ooh.
I think that the so this is a one button hack, but I think that this has existed before. It was just in a different form factor. So back in my day, we had like the blue boxes and the red boxes and the death boxes, and you had all these little boxes, some of them quite large, that you would carry around that would do individual hacks at a push of a button. To do things. But then again, that was also more in the freaking sense rather than the hacking sense as well. So,
I mean, we're
Yeah,
back to hacking phones, right?
Go ahead. Yeah, I was gonna say that like this kind of like merges all of them together, though. I think that's what makes. I think that's why everyone's so obsessed with the flipperzero. Is it tries to do all of the above in some senses, right? It can. I have seen the attacks where it unlocks car doors, and you could probably call that some form of freaking because it maybe to an extent, depending on what kind of receiver it's using. It does do multiple um, different bands. It talks on not just Wi-Fi, it talks Bluetooth, it talks different frequencies, right? But it also talks different packet protocols and things like that.
there's one caveat that I kind of want to bring up. So, if you're playing with this, double check what the distance is going to be, because there's people with like Dexcoms out there that monitor their glucose levels, and if you start messing that up, then bad things can start happening.
Yeah,
There's a lot of Bluetooth medical devices now.
Yeah,
Yep.
so that one I'm happy to speak to. I'm gonna keep working on fixing my camera. I have no idea what's gone on right now. But no, I'm so far. I am way less worried for that. Those devices have been tested extensively for ones that affect glucose levels, for ones that inject insulin, and even if you have full access, because this is Bluetooth spam. This is a DOS attack. That's what this is. Even if you completely take offline, like if you can spam the Bluetooth module and take it completely offline, somehow you figure out a way to blow up the Bluetooth module, the systems operate completely independently.
Yes, but you lose monitoring capability for a lot of those systems because they communicate over Bluetooth.
There's redundancy built into many of them so that you can even read it just like off NFC and things like that.
Right. So here's the thing. Is it going to be every unit that does this, right? It's not like there's only one brand of these devices on the market, right? And this is the point. This is why I said this is the modern script-kiddy. These are people who are going to grab a flipperzero off the shelf, go to the flipperzero app store, download the Hack This Thing app, and press the auto hack button, right? And like that is kind of how it pans out. Like there's somebody out there who develops it, and then there's somebody who puts it on the app store, and then you're able to download it and just make it work. And what makes it the modern script-kiddy is the someone who goes, this is cool, not really understanding what it's doing, and it potentially having negative side effects, except this time it's in the real world, not just kicking your friends off of Counter-Strike or whatever, right? Which is it's a little worrisome, but it's also, like I said, it's like 12-year-old Gowry's dream come true of being able to go off into the world and create chaos at the press of a button.
So I also see it as another gadget that's fairly inexpensive compared to what other past ones were, right? So Hack 5 has been around for a long time. They've been making content and gadgets for more than 10 years. Their gear has always been fairly inexpensive. And the same argument, I would say, goes for them. Because, I mean, your pineapples were $100 a pop. If you wanted to go through and do it yourself, go grab yourself a $30 router, get yourself the right flasher that you need, and you're good to go with like $50 worth of gear. So if you wanted to, you could do this in the past. It's just that this is a very nice package now. Even going to the Hack 5 forums back in the day, you had everything there. So you had to copy paste. You didn't even have to get into Vim, right? You could literally copy paste in Notepad and you'd be up and running. So I think it's just bringing down the barrier to entry for other folks getting in. And that's the thing that's starting to scare more people with how quickly we're able to communicate now with all the social medias. It's gotten popular. You got people going and saying, oh, let me grab my flipperzero, go to the Times Square and turn off all the screens. No, it doesn't work that way. Don't try. Okay, cool. You got the McDonald's TV to turn off. Good for you, bud. Great. But it's also bringing a whole hell of a lot more security awareness all over the place. So on that part, I'm kind of excited about. And I see a silk.
Oh my gosh. I have no idea what happened there. I will not be demoing the Flipper Zero
Do it
again.
again.
Actually, I think it had nothing to do with it. I think it was bad timing of what happened was it I want to double check this. So your phone has an ability to connect to to this software over I forget what they call it, Face Connect. Effectively, like you use this camera remotely with the software. And I think what was happening is as the spam was happening, this camera had if I couldn't get the overhead working, my plan was to flick on over and just use this. The kicker is I think it kept disconnecting and reconnecting with the software or the Ecamm software, which had again unexpected things happened.
Make it Hacken said, "This is what happens when Silk tests in production."
This is totally the first time I've used. Yeah, like here's one of the cameras is even offline. Well, we're not even. The fact that I can use additional cameras, really cool. Will I actually use them? No, but we can use them. But
Are you sure you can use them?
Not really. I can. The hack button still works. That's the key.
That's the important part.
The giant hack button that still works. All right. Now my brain is not split. The piece I want to think about, like the devices are really cool. Here's the thing though, which I want to dig into. It's a script-kiddy device. It is. Like you can do, I don't want to say actual hacking because that's such a weird way of saying it, where you can hook into hardware devices. You can start researching it. But look, where is the barrier? Because I can easily say, I think every hacker starts as a script-kiddy. I mean, whether you call it script-kiddy or not, I'm going to run a tool that someone else built having no understanding of how it worked. And then I'm going to break things. I'm going to click Nmap. I have no idea what it's doing. And that's how all of us start. That's how we learn. And then we move on to the question of like, okay, how is this working? How do we dig into the details? How does this work? And I beg the question of at what point, I mean, I want to do the hack. What is a hacker thing again? But the question is like, at what point is there like a barrier of entry to use these devices? Like you're not allowed to use one of these devices unless you understand the technology, because I have seen that on Twitter or X or whatever they call it now.
Yeah, that's just blatantly wrong. But what do you guys think?
So I don't think that there's a barrier to entry to this. It's, can you afford to go pick one up? If you can't afford to go pick one up, can you make your own? And if you're curious about that, you are enabled to do so. But I don't think there's a barrier to entry for this thing. It's the availability, if nothing else. Because there's definitely enough tutorials online. That's for sure.
Yeah, what are your guys' thoughts?
What do you think, Gula?
Yeah, we've always kind of had this. So you can go out and buy exploits now and then run them. One of the companies I'm working at has an active exploit running against it where they're trying all kinds of usernames and passwords, and they've been trying it for weeks now and they haven't gotten in. It's just vaguely annoying. It's like, at what point in time do you realize when you pushed a button, it didn't work, that you need to go try something else? And this is one of those things where you're going to have people just mashing the button. This is, yeah, like the president and the nukes just hitting the red button over and over and over again, going, why won't it work?
Well, the question is like, maybe we get to the core of the question on this thing is this a vulnerability? Because I would argue that a vulnerability is something that can be fixed. It's only a vulnerability if it can be fixed.
I mean, is what a vulnerability? The flipperzero existing? Because
no,
I would say that societally, yes. But no, the Bluetooth thing, it's a bug, right? It's a bug. If you require uptime from your iPhone to keep somebody alive, then yes, it's a vulnerability.
Is it really a bug though? Because you can do like spread spectrum radio signals and completely blow out Bluetooth. It may not actually crash the phone, but I can definitely jam whatever radio frequencies I need to jam.
Okay, so here's why I say it's a bug. Like the intent of this feature that the developer put into the iPhone, or one or more people designed into the iPhone. The intent is to make it easy for your devices to connect to your iPhone. What was intended was that. What the reality is they've created a feature that crashes your iPhone if someone tries to connect to it too rapidly, right? And so I often say this, that a vulnerability or a bug or whatever is when the intent of a developer does not meet the reality of their program. So that's my statement on this. I think it's a feature.
I will say I am so happy you didn't use the hacking is when. Oh my gosh! Does anyone see this weird bubble thing?
You just because you're on a Mac, man. As soon as you go thumbs up or thumbs down, it does automatically and built in. If you do 2 thumbs down, it becomes rainy. It's a
it's not that. It's someone thumbed up the screen, and this is that's the thing. Oh gosh, that's not
Anyway,
going to get annoying if that gets spammed. I'm so glad you didn't say hacking is when you use something in a way it wasn't intended, because I've heard that definition. Hacking is something that when you use something in a way it wasn't intended. It's like my SLR camera could be used during a not proctology exam, during your
what?
But your SLR, hold on, I'm going here with this. Your SLR camera could be used during a proctology exam, and it's using it in a way it hasn't been designated to be used. That's hacking, and it's like that's really not a good definition.
No,
so I'm glad you didn't use it.
I think you're being a little obtuse there, right?
I also think that your camera is far too big for a proctology exam.
I mean, but it's using it in a way it wasn't intended to be used.
Not if it's used on him.
That escalated quickly. I absolutely agree, Chad.
The question though is, so Live Overflow talked about this, and I think he brought up a really good definition, which is vulnerabilities are only a vulnerability if it can be fixed. Otherwise, there's whole categories of infinite bug bounties. He talked about how to get infinite money with bug bounties, and it was really clever because you see this in so many repositories. Login, you have username and password. Well, if I put in your username and password far too many times when it's not you, it will lock out the account. So there's a DOS for locking out accounts. So how do we stop this? Well, let's do rate limiting. Rate limiting across the board. Well, that still doesn't fix it because now I can just hit the rate limit. It locks everyone out. Oh, well, we're going to do rate limiting based on IP addresses. Every one of these is a bug bounty submission. We're going to do rate limiting based on IP address. Well, AWS, I can buy now 1,000 IP addresses for pennies and then lock you out that way. So still a bug. And they go, great. So we're not going to do rate limiting. We're going to lock out user accounts, which brings you back to the beginning. It's this infinite loop of how do you fix something like this? And I don't think Apple is going, they can do what Android does and limit it as far as we're only going to allow like 3 pop-ups before we put a cooldown period on it. Like we're going to not allowed to discovery for like 10 minutes after like 3 hits. But this is effectively DAuth and web. I mean, it's actually, I would say, worse than DAuth was because it's not going to get fixed until you up the entire protocol. Until we move to WPA3, you're always going to be able to DAuth.
I mean, there's 2 things that are going on. There is the DDoS of you being able to use your phone because of the pop-ups, and then there's the crash. The crash is clearly a bug,
yes,
right? And
I would agree with that.
And the crash, I would even say, is theoretically a vulnerability, depending on what's going on, right? I can speculate as to what it is, and my guess would be there's a buffer somewhere that filled up, and all of a sudden, the buffer's full and another packet comes in and the driver hits an assert case. Like that's probably my guess. And that means it's a bug and it's not a real vulnerability. So like I said, unless your iPhone is doing something critical, like we'll say monitoring your blood glucose levels, and that's your lifeline, it's not really a vulnerability. However, if it is, that is a vulnerability. So like it just depends on the context of
it. I'd agree with that to a certain extent. I mean, I think the other things is with some of these devices, like there's definitely some goofiness in the advertising of how these things have gone out in the videos that have gone viral. These people are like, I can brute force any garage door. I'm like, you can't even use the default standard thing. even if you wanted to program it on your garage door because it doesn't support rolling codes. Now I think they've added some support, but I use mine to open up my garage door. The kicker is I still have to program it like any other universal remote. It is super nice, by the way, to have like my garage door, my parents' garage doors, a friend's garage door, like all of these things in one device. But it is kind of funny when you're using it. Melissa bought these really cool like candles for Halloween, which hang down from the ceiling, like almost like the Harry Potter like candles, which are all float above our island. And then there's a wand, and the kids are loving it, where you can turn them on and off remotely. But the kicker is Lucy just is kicking them on and doesn't know how to kick them off. So I can use the flipper to copy the signal, kick them off, and then she can kick them on. And it is kind of weird to have an all-in-one device. It's super nice.
I think it's cool because it's enabling you to be able to find out more SIGINT around you, right? So you can go turn on the frequency analyzer for the sub-gigahertz radio, and you can find out who and what gadgets are talking. And then, okay, all of a sudden I see something come over the 400 megahertz range. Sweet. Let's go start looking for this thing. And then you start copying or recording small sections of that and replaying it. Okay, what is turning on or off at this point? Oh, look. Looks like my the massager that we've got is now turning on. Hey, if I click this button again, now it's going on pulsing mode. Oh, interesting. Now we can go through and turn that off now. That's interesting. That's cool. So with that, you've also got different lights. You've got different.
Tell us more about the modes of this massager you're turning on and off.
You heard what I said.
Remotely?
Remotely. That's the fun part.
Pretty sure.
Have you guys never heard the term teledildonics?
Oh, that's like an entire thing, man. Absolutely.
That is a real word, and that is what we're talking about right now.
Absolutely. So between the different lights that you can go through and do, I was going through and sitting in my church where it had just the frequency analyzer going on, and we have different, not connected to the same thing, just as a heads up. The same frequency analyzer was able to go through, and I was able to locate one of our weather stations because it was going through and using the LoRa 433 megahertz to go through and connect. So kind of cool, kind of interesting to find out what's going on around you, and then like walking through the stores. 900 megahertz radio popping up here, 800 megahertz radio popping up there. I think it's becoming the barrier to entry to find out exactly what's going on around you is what's so cool about it.
So I'm going to spin us back to the purpose of these devices. We originally said the modern day script-kiddy, and I think this does. It opens up a new realm of, we'll say, crap, because for a new verticals, new realm of crap, which felt like you would have needed multiple devices. You would have needed a handful of other devices to be able to do this type of discovery. But even when I'm playing with one, I feel like I am the ultimate script-kiddy because there's nothing on this that I'm going, like, there's nothing on this which I'm learning from right now. It's a lot of universal remote stuff. And then as I'm jumping into it, I can go, oh, it can do Bluetooth spam. Oh, that's cool. And I can do the Apple Bluetooth spam on my own devices and find weird things that will happen, like taking down the stream, which was not predicted. And I think it's that jumping off. So the question I have for you is, when you started your career, did you have these script-kiddy moments? And then what was that moment which helped bring you to the next level? And I can start us off if no one has one to mind. Yeah, I'll start us off. So example of this for me was one of my first, I'm going to say real hacks, and that sounds so goofy, but I got into video game hacking. That was my gateway drug to get into, we'll say, this career path. There was Unreal Tournament, specifically Unreal Tournament 2004. I opened up a Lethril, which effectively is Wireshark before it changed names. Opened that up, looked at packets, noticed that if you spun up a server for Unreal Tournament 2004, it shot out a broadcast packet, took that, was able to play with certain bits to see what they affected. Like one was the name of the server, one was the IP address of the server, one was the MAC address of the server. And then I looked at that and I went a little bit farther saying, okay, what can I change in here? And as I was changing things, I noticed if I kept flipping the MAC address of the server, instead of just refreshing the one server, it would create multiple servers. And I'm like, okay, well, if I programmatically rapidly flood the network with constantly changing MAC addresses, and sure enough, it filled up the buffer. It showed like there's 50,000 servers and the server would crash. It wouldn't impact games that were running, just anyone who looked at the server list. And then I found out there was ways of poisoning online databases, so you could actually like take down all of Unreal Tournament 2004, like for all of their servers. It started off as very much script-kiddy and going, okay, like I have no idea what I'm going to do. Oh, someone made a protocol fuzzer or made an IP address fuzzer. I'm going to run that fuzzer. And then it started as like a little bit of scientific hooliganism, we'll say, of like at college, university, you had people who were, or actually at high school, you had people who were playing a lot of Unreal Tournament, and I wasn't that great at the game. I was getting better, but then I realized I had screwed with people who were actually enjoying the game. And yes, terrible person aside, I get it. I've grown up. I've matured. But you just piss off the people who were just killing you and headshotting you, so you'd kick them all off the server, and then you could go get the flag and bring it back, and then you're not actually playing the game anymore. But it's not the point. The point is to win the game. No, but there was like that was my gateway into like using other people's tools, doing script-kiddy, screwing around with aimbotting, downloading someone else's aimbot, using their aimbot, then building that curiosity of go, how do these things work? How can I make my own? How can I make it better? How can I get around Valve's anti-cheat? All of these type of pieces, which start as script-kiddydom, and then moving towards understanding and feeding that curiosity. What's your guys' stories on those?
I think just about everyone who has ever written a lick of code starts as a script-kiddy, right? Because it's kind of the only way you can. You just copy, until ChatGPT came along, it was go to Stack Overflow and copy and paste whatever, whatever even remotely matches your question and see if it does what you want without reading it at all. And then inevitably you mess up your computer and have to reinstall it, right? So I think everyone does that at some point. The barrier to entry I'll say the barrier to entry to effects, like actual appreciable effects that aren't just trivial poking another person's computer that's connected to the internet, is what has changed. That's why I said, like, when 12-year-old Gowry's just saw hackers for the first time and was just like, yeah, I'm going to be that guy that changes all of the street lights to green because I'm tired of waiting at red lights, things like that. And then you over time, you realize like, oh, that's a closed network. Oh, there's this, there's that. And it becomes harder and harder to imagine having a life like that, right? Where you are the master of all the computers around. And so I think, like, I'm definitely guilty of this. And the reason why the topic for the stream was the modern script-kiddy, but in a positive light, not a negative light. I don't think this is necessarily a negative thing, because I think this does potentially bring folks into the realm of scientific hooliganism that is hacking. In the same way that you were just discussing with video game hacking. Yeah, I did video game hacking when I was a kid too, a little bit. And it was all pre-built tools that almost certainly had Trojan horses in them and things like that, right? The days of downloading random, wares off of the internet, right? They were rife with Trojan horses and backdoors and stuff like that for people who actually were in the know at the time.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's a gateway drug. I'd actually argue that we continue. Did you lose your mic? Interrupt me if you did have a thought which you didn't complete. I think there's this pendulum shift that always happens. Is when you're learning something new, you become a script-kiddy in that subject, and then slowly gain understanding. Like, I think it's not you are a script-kiddy and then you're no longer a script-kiddy. I think we are consistently script-kiddies anytime we pick up something new. Now, we probably do it with a little bit maybe I don't know if this is bad. I feel like I learned a lot more when I was a kid because you were able to just like, I'm going to download this thing and run it with no fear that anything bad will happen. And now you do it with a semblance of understanding of all the bad things that could happen. But I think there is probably that piece of, you know, when you're a kid, you want to jump off the bridge into the lake. You're not really thinking about like, oh, is it deep enough? I saw 3 other people doing it. It's probably fine. Where now, like as an adult, you're now calculating all the things that could go wrong and go, maybe I'm just not going to do it. And you lose out on some of, I would say, the fun of jumping off.
So Schrodinger's script-kiddy. You don't know if you're a script-kiddy until someone calls you one?
I love that.
Yeah.
You were both a hacker and not a hacker, and a script-kiddy and not a script-kiddy at all times. It all depends who you're hanging around with.
And I don't think the new word is script-kiddy anymore. I think they've shortened it to just call them skids now.
Nope.
Skids?
Gross.
Skids.
I'm so not okay with that.
Yeah, I'm gonna continue saying script kitty. Thank you.
Yeah.
You have something?
A skid is definitely what my daughter is dealing with right now as she's learning how to wipe herself. So I am not okay with that one.
Potty training parents for the win.
As far as my entry to, I guess, script-kiddy would have been like blue boxes back in the day. Acquiring one on the mean streets of Idaho and learning how to make free phone calls. And then from there, it's like, okay, how do I build one? How do I market these? How do I sell them at school to all the other script kiddies?
Did we just confess to a felony on? No.
Statute of limitations. I'm good. This was like 40 years ago. I'm all set.
You always hide behind the fact and say, really, we're all just making up stories. None of this actually happened. This is just for the sake of entertainment for YouTube. There's never anything illegal has ever been done.
So
this is, we're all click whores.
True. I'm an incredible whore. No, so this kind of gets back to kind of the idea of what I was saying. It was like, for as negative a connotation as the script kitty has, I actually want to go back to being a script kitty. Kind of like what Silk said, is just like the more you learn, the more likely you are to just download random shit and press random buttons without understanding it, because you're somewhat afraid of the side effects, right? You're afraid of crashing somebody's glucose monitor. You're afraid of, accidentally breaking a law or, enabling some kind of chaos that you didn't mean to. And like you lose the wonder that comes with being a script kitty and not understanding what it is you're necessarily doing and just allons-y, let's break some shit, right? So there's an inner gallery that just wishes I could go back to that state of wonder. But now I look at something and I go, oh yeah, the driver code probably has a ring buffer that's filling up and blah, 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 blah. And there's no wonderment anymore. Is wonderment a word?
Wonderment, sure.
Wonderment.
I think you need to start like inventing things that don't exist. Go back into like physics or something, or hardcore electronics, and be like, I want this to work.
So let me paint a picture, because I had this idea earlier. So we've been talking about hacking smart toilets for quite some time, because there's no reason a toilet should be smart, and so they deserve to be hacked. Basically. Now, the existence of the flipperzero, let me paint a picture for you here, is if we were to figure out how to take some of these smart bidets and smart toilets and figure out the general package, because there's somebody out there that has made a general API for how to control these things over Bluetooth, and we make a flipperzero, we'll say universal remote for smart bidets and smart toilets, and we publish it. Can you imagine the chaos that would happen as some random person in Japan downloads it, presses the auto hack button, and an entire apartment building's buttholes get sprayed with fresh water in the middle of doing business?
So
cleaning up the dirty, huh?
That is that. So that's a positive effect, right?
So Bunny and Skyria have, I just doxed someone. They introduced me to bidets. I've never used a bidet. and I got a bidet. And let me tell you, it is a magical experience for all involved. And as I was sitting there enjoying pretty much the bountiful blessings it has to offer, it did hit me as I can control this thing with a flipper. And you can absolutely put it into edema mode, which apparently is a mode. I didn't know that was a mode. That is a mode. And it's very easy. Push the button. There's a remote, which, like, of course there's a remote. You push the button on the remote, you record it, you can replay it. There is one issue, kind of. There is a pressure sensor on bidets that has to be physically activated for this to work. Like 100%, you can't just like kick on these features. The pressure sensor has to be on there. This doesn't stop someone else from using the toilet, and unexpectedly, some of the functions go on.
Exactly.
So
what you're saying is that Gulo and I now have a target.
And this is what hit me. I'm like, this was but this is what brought me to this. In essence, you're like, oh, this neuters the attack. This stops the attack from happening. This blocks the attack because there's a physical sensor. And then it hit me using the flipper of just spamming these connections. You can stop the connections from the flipper by turning Bluetooth off. That's the only remediation. Just turning Bluetooth off and disconnects your devices. And with the bidet, there's no way of turning that off. But I don't want water all over my bathroom, so the pressure sensor is great. It doesn't remove the ability just to spam the signal to activate the edema feature all the time. And then when someone sits down, it automatically activates.
Triggers.
So, which hit me as, I think I have an idea of a device to send. And I don't think, unfortunately, the remote codes, I don't think are universal. But I don't need a $200 flipper or how much they go for. I just need like an ESP32 or something capable of sending out whatever the signal is for that. And then just spamming it. And you can do this with a little coin cell battery and just set them around. So I think there is a market for bidet edema spammers, which you just buy the little ESP32 and you just ditch it in someone's house. And knowing the coin cell battery and Bluetooth, you probably get it to run a few days before there's any issues. Is this the new idea?
Do you realize that you have now just created a serious national security issue for Japan?
This is literally the Anoyatron of toilets.
Yes.
But you can spam it. Like I saw the pressure sensor and I was like, oh, that stinks. Now it's not going to be able to. It's not going to work because someone has to be sitting there. And then it was like the light bulb. I'm like, wait, someone has to be sitting there. You always hit someone with it. Oh, it's a beautiful thing.
It's already on ThinkGeek. That's what I'm hearing.
Oh, too soon. Too soon.
Dude, it's been years.
It's still too soon. So, going back to the one of the questions that you guys were talking about on what was your first script-kiddy moment, and I would say always be interested in the Hack 5 gear is that path. But if I was going to pick one out, it would probably be Fire Sheep, which was the add-on that you could go through and either put into your browser, or they also made one for the Android phones to where you could go through, download this app, and then kick a bunch of people off the Wi-Fi or replace pictures in line. Before everything was HTTP, or before HTTPS, it was all HTTP. So you could pick whatever GIF or whatever image that you wanted and replace that. So there was certain points in times, and I think we've talked about it on stream in the past, where going to like a timeshare resort and, hey, I want to just play some Black Ops 2, man. My brother and I are sitting across the hall from each other. We can't play because somebody's taking all the bandwidth. And just scan the network. Somebody's taking a lot of bandwidth. Oh, it's because they're watching some adult videos. Let's go ahead and just grab this nun GIF that's going and send it just to that IP address. So every single image was replaced with that instead. It was fantastic. We got bandwidth back all of a sudden, and we were able to play our Black Ops 2 game. And it was the most skid moment that I can go back to. That was the skill needed. I didn't need to understand what I was doing to packets. I didn't need to understand other than having an Android phone and an Android app. And it was magical because it worked, and it was able to go through and fix the problem at the time.
Yeah, it is kind of funny. I feel like for a lot of people of this generation, a lot of it came down to video game hacking. Even like things like running Halo, before like Halo 1 over the network to be able to play with other people. Like that was some of my basic understanding was going, okay, I need to get a Switch. I need to get Ethernet at. Oh, okay, we're gonna have too many devices on this, so let's segment them off and do some semblance of subnetting on them. Like a lot of them does feel. As a question, Gator, Make It Hacking asked about ThinkGeek. I'm pretty sure, didn't Amazon buy them and then just shut them down? That was the situation.
GameStop that bought them, unfortunately. They brought them into stores for a little while, and then the whole GameStop stonks thing happened, and ThinkGeek is now gone, unfortunately.
Someone's going to spin that up. Like there is a market for that. Like in a Hacker Warehouse has kind of proven this out. There is a niche there where there is a need for people want these devices. There's a need for them. The kicker is, again, I think like when you get these more universal devices, it's pretty cool how the Flipper has kind of unified these devices. The one kicker I have with them is I'm curious if they have or are thinking about using multiple chips, which can do the same thing inside it to avoid the chip shortage. Because I know there's businesses that did affect within the hacker space where they built their entire platform off of a single chip. And then when that chip wasn't available, it wiped out their company. I mean, I'm pretty sure Hack 5 this happened with, and that's why they had to re-push all their new all their new devices.
That is true. With their newer stuff, they did go through and have to rebase it off of another chip and then release the newer versions. So some of them are supposed to be a little bit faster. But functionally, if you have the version 1s, then the version 2s are working well for like the packet squirrel and the packet hacking switch that they've got as well. The interesting thing for me at the Flipper is I have had one since the original Kickstarter. Some of the development was done in Russia. Some of the development was done in the States. And for me, I'm like, hey, I don't have a dedicated device just to program this. I'm going to put it on the back shelf for a little bit. With the newer ones, with how much it's evolved in the last 2 years, now you've got Android apps, you've got iOS apps, you've got Windows, Mac apps, you've got an app, the Snap app for your Ubuntu folks, and you've also got Flatpaks now to where you can install it on any Linux. It's super easy to get started now. And honestly, I picked up a second one because I'm going to give it to my kids. So then they can go through and say, here's one device. It's got 13 tools built into it. And now you can go play with it. Go experiment. What are you going to crash? I'm giving it to my kids to crash our network type of a deal. What is going on at my house? What's going on at our hackerspace? So then we can feed that curiosity. And at the same time, we might be able to find out that when you let the chaos monkeys out, what if your network does or doesn't stay up, i.e. like crashing Bluetooth on cameras.
It's funny when you... Oh, go on,
This
Gulo.
is something I did way back in the day. I had a friend birthday party, and his friends brought his kids there. So I gave him lock picks for his birthday, and I sat down and held a makeshift lock picking, like, this is how you lock pick. So I taught a whole bunch of like 5 and 6 year olds how to lock pick. And then I was like opening the front door and sending them out in the neighborhood being like, go find a PlayStation.
I think a lot of them come down to like, let's go back to the modern day script-kiddy. Is like, I think that you hit this really weird spot when you're first learning. And I think the gatekeeping around hacking has semi gone away in some ways because we recognize, I would say the older hackers recognize that. I mean, let's use pen testing as an example. I had to step away from pen testing just a bit as I'm starting up this business, as I should say starting up, we're 6 years in at this point, but I had to step away and have pull on smart people to be able to do some of this while I have to go run and do other parts of the business. And we flip through, let's use Bloodhound as an example. So Bloodhound, what the purpose of it is to enumerate Active Directory and find weaknesses within trust groups so you can escalate to domain admin. It lets you do like, what's the shortest path to domain admin from my own principles, things like that. And starting off, like, this is an example of like, okay, he asked me, how do you go about doing it? I'm like, oh yeah, use Python Bloodhound ingester. Works forever. It has been working for 10 years. Well, like 2 months ago, Bloodhound, like, by the way, there's a whole nother rant I would like to get on. Why is every damn hacker tool getting bought out by a big company and then just completely wrecked? Like, Metasploit is one of them. Just got bought by Rapid7, and then that went to crap. But Bloodhound was another one which was bought and then turned into a big company, and then that went. And then maybe it hasn't gone to crap. I just don't like big companies buying open source hacking tools, and they're like, we're going to productionize this.
It's almost like open source software is superior in every sense.
Yeah, there you go. But Bloodhound example, so Bloodhound is bought. They rewrote parts of it. They wanted to own their own ingester. I'm sure there's other ingesters, but that one stopped working. And my knowledge goes that was the best ingester, and now it's gone 2 months later. I'm not keeping up with so much of this stuff, so it's the recognition of going, things move so stupidly fast in this industry. There is no way, even if you're in this specific vertical, that you can keep up with it all. Talking about YouTube with an employee, and he was talking, there is a channel he watches where all the person does is cross-site scripting. That's all they do. I think it was XSS Rat, I think was the name of it. It is an entire channel dedicated to cross-site scripting. We're talking like one niche of a niche of a niche of a niche, and that's all he does. Mm-hmm. And even I'm sure even he would recognize there's too much to know. Going back to this idea of gatekeeping within security, I think as we get older, we recognize just how much how much we don't know, how much of the stuff we do know is old, and how much of it's just continuously changing, and recognizing that we're all idiot children when it comes to this field, and we're in this constant state of learning. So I think there's less of I don't know if it's an age thing. Here's the question. I don't know if it's an age thing where you look back at people starting this field and go, yeah, man, there's so much to learn. There's so much excitement. There's so much discovery that happens, and almost jealous of that. Do you think it's still happening where once you hit that, what is that curve? You start learning something, you gain in confidence. You look back at everyone and go, oh my goodness, they don't know anything. They're just a bunch of script kiddies, where it was insulting. Do you think that's gone away? Has that mellowed in the industry at all? You don't think so at all?
No. No. I think probably the people we cultivate around ourselves, we tend to stomp out that attitude. At least I do. At least I try to. And so, it still definitely exists. I didn't go to college that long ago, and I had freshmen and sophomores in college that would go on rants about how they were better developers than other people. And I'm sitting there if you knew anything, you wouldn't be ranting right now because you would know nothing. There's just always something to learn. So no, I don't think that attitude has gone away. I think that's just something you grow out of, at least hopefully do anyway.
Yeah, I'd say hopefully do. You still meet them a little bit, and it is always funny. As a consultant, oftentimes you do need to, we'll say, flex in front of clients, and usually it's not me going, I'm going to flex. Usually it's my business partner saying hey, nudging me a little bit.
What business do you run? Silk just walks into places, takes his shirt off, and starts flexing. Oh yeah, look at me!
So not impressive.
Use my protein powder.
Well, it's usually when you find there's a know-it-all in a company where you have to flex, and I hate it every single time. I hate it. I use that word so infrequently. Hate it when my business partner's hey, we have someone who's won 3 black badges. We have someone who has won these competitions. We have someone who has won this. He has pwned more networks. And it's yeah, please, can we stop? But I get why the purpose of that is. But you still meet these, oftentimes the people who are newer in the industry who see those as I have accomplished these things, which you haven't. It's also one of the things that's turned me off a little bit to the offensive security certifications, because they've become very much this, I have this certification. I am uber elite hacker. I have done this CTF. I am uber elite hacker, where it's great. It's great. It's personal accomplishment. But I am noticing you have this almost distaste for that part of the educational cycle that you see very frequently.
I think that's starting to. No, I'm not going to say that it's starting to wane. I think the hacking community in particular has not really. I mean, like, we lift up the winners of these CTFs and see it as the Olympics and all that stuff. But I think the hacking community goes deep in um, celebrating even, trivial accomplishments. Like, let me put it to you this way: I have no interest in ever winning a black badge at DEF CON. Now I can't because I'm a goon, but that's fine. Whatever. I have no interest in winning a black badge. I have no interest in playing CTFs anymore. I am interested in, however, forging the black badge urinal cake badge, however. And I would be proud of that. And I think that is a better hack than a lot of others because it's so, what is the word? Is it offensive? No, offensive is the wrong word. It's not offensive, but it's like the
Tasty.
Yes, tasty. There we go. It's so tasty. You can smell the winning off of it, right? You can smell the victory. There we go.
First, spoken as someone who doesn't have a black badge. Throw that one out there. I don't want a black badge. I've never even wanted to compete with one. But no, just kidding. You can win one. You can win one as a goon. You probably don't have time to win one as a goon, but you could, and theoretically. I mean, win Scav Hunt with me, and Scav Hunt doesn't like black badges. Darknet doesn't really like black badges either. This just completely wrecks the community. I mean, that's probably a whole nother conversation in and of itself. Is black badges in some way? I would say personal experience. I remember winning mine right there for Darknet, and that was Darknet 22. Yeah, toot toot. But I will say that turned me into a believer of certain competitions at DEF CON. I would say should have a black badge, can have a black badge, like CTF and things. Competitions which are meant to be competed as an individual totally work. But I remember that was almost my worst experience of Darknet because it was great, awesome community, meeting people, like everyone piling on, helping. But then looking around at the rest of the gamers, and now I had a great experience DEF CON 22 winning that because I had built up that community over the course of time. But then immediately, right when it was announced, all of a sudden, like everyone was like I am individual now. I am not part of a community because I'm competing to win.
So this makes a perfect point to where when you're trying to help actually build out the community, when you're trying to get, hey, are we welcoming in script kiddies? Are we trying to be able to have more people get into the industry? Very much what the Darknet was based off of, right? Trying to make sure we're enabling folks to get more and gain more knowledge. And you don't get a heads up until literally like the last day within hours of closing contest time of, oh, you might become a black badge, or there's a possibility that's going to happen. So the community change went from, hey, we're going to be contributive and make sure that we're bringing everybody up. The rising tide floats all boats to a, hey, now there's going to be one. And that one person's going to get a black badge. That's bragging rights for life, free access to DEF CON for life. Okay, there's a switch that changes. And instead of saying, hey, let's continue working together, I'm still gonna get my points. It was we're going to make sure. And I'm not saying that Silk was a butt to anybody, because he was not. The fact is that there are mindset changes that happen when socially, hey, now here's a prize, not just knowledge, but a monetary XYZ to it that people are going to go after. And we have tried to balance that over the years to where if that happens, how can we make sure the community is not just turned off and there's no more sharing, that you're still building that collaborative effort. And it can take time.
I know Gallery wants to jump in, but as a quick thing, and this is totally a exploit within Darknet, the reason I won that year 100%, gosh, I put a thumbs up. That's what it is. Where is this coming from?
It's built into It's built into Mac, dude. They did it. They pushed it with this update. It's horrible.
What's nuts about this is this must be every webcam. Like, this is not running through Apple software.
No, it's going every webcam through Mac now.
All right.
That is
what are we talking about? Hold
on. I wanted to say
nope. I'm gonna talk.
No,
I'm gonna talk.
Forget you. No, I am in control of camera. So the kicker was
nobody wants to hear about your black badges.
No, it was it was about Darknet and the fact of what it was is that one was won to the community. By pairing
Yes.
with badges, you got more points. So you wanted to pair with badges. Gowrie?
Pair with
I
everybody.
like the idea of Darknet being the graduator of script kiddies. Come to us, script kiddies, and we will unscript kitty you by making you touch Barbie and open the poop box.
Don't blacklight Barbie. That's all I gotta say.
Oh man. Oh man.
All right.
I think with this is like there is this graduation process that does happen. I think when you go from the script kiddie to non-script kiddie, but the funny part is it's not really a graduation because it goes from script kiddie to I've learned enough to now every time I learn something new, I am an idiot child who now needs to script kiddie it up again. So I think there's this circular process that happens.
I think the process is slowly changing though, Silk, to where people are now willing more to teach what they've learned to somebody else than has been in the past. Whether that's through sharing things through social media, and sure they're trying to get the clicks. The fact is that they're actually sharing more out that they've done in the past.
Nope, we lost your. I think we lost your audio.
No,
You lost
never
me?
mind. No, we didn't.
Okay.
I was looking at the wrong picture.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah, that might be projecting a little bit. I still run into plenty of assholes.
Okay. I may be more selective process when trying to go through this. Gulo,
Yeah, but I
way.
love you. But I love you, Gulo. You're not an asshole. You're just a chaos monkey.
I think there's something to be said about monkeying, especially when it comes to DEF CON. And I think there is a balance there of like, how much is this person being a jerk? How much of them are just screwing around? But with that, what are some final thoughts as we're hitting this? Are you aspiring to be a better modern day script kiddie? What are your thoughts? We'll go to Gowrie first.
I am aspiring to be a script kiddie again. I want that wonder back.
World domination. That's the goal.
Gator?
For me, I tell you what, I want to get back into it more to where I'm understanding the modern tools that folks are now getting into. So grabbing a flipperzero, grabbing the newest Hack 5 gear, and understanding how folks are coming in, and then be able to say, hey, here's the next step. Here's your sysadmining. Here's how to defend. And absolutely making sure that you go love your hacker family when you're doing it.
And with me, my camera clearly went out one last time. So that's it. That's everything. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for listening. And as always, hack on.